News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-9227. Well, Mark Cuban, first it was Joe.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of seen as unconscionable.
And then Mark Cuban said, hold my beer, Joe.
Donald Trump, you never see him around strong, intelligent women, ever. It's just that simple.
Well, so no intelligent and strong women are around him, only weak and stupid ones. Well, Mark, you spent 14 lines in one tweet trying to explain yourself, and I retweeted by saying, Mark, the more you have to explain, the more you and Kamala are losing. So I want to say thank you to Mark Cuban. I did thank him in my first reaction online on Twitter at Chris Crock Show. I thanked him for another amazing contribution, perhaps better than Joe's. Ladies, is this offensive to you? And just for all of us to answer, too, I mean, do you see the Harris campaign going down like the Hindenburg in this last week? Actually, last 5 days. And do you see signs pointing to a solid Trump win? And who's winning in this last week, in your opinion? And yes, we could still lose this, but it's looking nice. It continues to trend in Trump's favor. I'll share some intel on that in a moment. Of some really good stuff. And for anybody who wants to hear more about Mark Cuban, even after being forced to hire independent people to investigate sexual harassment and fire people on his staff, he still wink, wink, nod, nod, kept his besties on the payroll until the Dallas Morning News caught them and did a 7-page expose, which I have been sharing excerpts of, how the filthy, sick besties of Mark Cuban were allowed to stay on staff and get away with it until the Dallas Morning News caught him. Then suddenly, fired that day. Wow, what a coincidence. I'm caught. So women are stupid and weak, and especially the ones that work for me. Yeah, my besties get to treat them like a piece of meat. Rachel, it doesn't say where you're at, but I'm going to trust you somewhere. You are on WBAP. What do you got?
Hey, I'm glad you're so positive tonight.
Thank you.
No, I wanted to say about Mark Cuban is the way I remember it is a lot of people tried to get him to run when Trump ran the first time because they went with billionaire, you can go up against him and everything. And he didn't do it. And I think he's always regretted that.
Yes.
He wants to stay relevant. And so he's always in there sniping at, at Trump and saying these really ridiculous put downs and everything. And he's just back, and that's why he's doing that. He doesn't really have anything. He's not looking at the landscape of what's going on and coming up with these things. No, it's all about him. He's just a narcissist who has to say rude things about Trump because he's so jealous of it.
You know what? I think you're right. Would you like to hear what Donald Trump said tonight in response to this on Twitter?
Yes.
Mark Cuban, a really dumb guy, who thinks he's hot stuff, quote unquote, but he's absolutely nothing, is now out there saying that I don't surround myself with strong women. Actually, he's very wrong. I surround myself with the strongest of women, with the understanding that all women are great, whether strong or not. This guy is such a fool. He's constantly on television being critical, and only for one reason, for the only reason I tuned him out completely while president, because he called incessantly, oh, here we go. I told him very pointedly, look, Mark, I've got a lot of, this is great. Look, Mark, I've got a lot of things to do. I just can't be taking so many pointless calls from you. Hold on. In any event, that affected him greatly because he's a very insecure guy and a major, all caps, major loser. Always has been and always will be. But always have and always will be. Nobody likes him. Nobody respects him. And he's unattractive both inside and out. Oh, look at him go. He's not the best looker.
Oh, my God.
He should go back to talk about the person he was forced to support because I didn't want it. Lion Kamala Harris. Also, he's got no clubhead speed. Oh, yes, he's a golfer. In fact, I may in fact be surrounded by the strongest women in the world, including heads of countries who make Mark look like a, quote, baby. All strong women and women in general should be very angry about this weak man's statement. There we go. Holy cow.
That's really good. That's really good. Sometimes I wish Trump wouldn't even give these people the time of day that say bad things about him, because it just kind of keeps it going. But that was really good. That was exactly right.
Let's take a look to see how many followers Mark has on Twitter, for example, versus Trump, because Trump has 92 million. Let's see how many Mark has. Just curious here. 8.9 million. Oh, my gosh. So, Trump has like 80 million or 81 million more or something followers, and 82 million more followers. Yeah. Wow. Or 83 million more followers. Isn't that amazing?
It really is.
Gosh. Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, would you like to hear some of the how he got caught with all these people in his on the Mavericks staff before he sold the Mavs?
I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, it's sexual harassment, and he's like, "Oh, I'll hire an independent team, and they'll come in and fire everybody and expose everything." But they purposely, the investigators, the Dallas Morning News reported, according to three or four former and current employees there at the time, were harassed and horribly treated by Mark Cuban's besties that were on the team, including the man who left him. Introduced him to his wife in the 90s. They were besties since the 90s or later more. And he's Bollinger is the guy's name, and he was the photographer for the team and stuff. Would you like to hear? So Mark never fired him. He's like, "Oh, we cleared it all out. We got all the bad guys out." And then the Dallas Morning News comes out, "No, you didn't, buddy. In fact, this guy's name came up a lot, and you didn't do anything about him because he's your bestie." Would you like to hear more about how vile this guy was that Mark Cuban kept and hid?
Yes.
Okay, in their report, investigators determined that years of a lack of control within the organization cultivated an environment in which misconduct went largely unchecked, and victims of sexual harassment felt helpless about reporting incidents to their supervisors. Helpless. Women felt helpless. Another former Mavericks employee said Bollinger, Mike Cuban's bestie, often made inappropriate comments to her, and she was hired. When she was hired, she was warned about Bollinger's ties to Cuban. She said she was not interviewed by investigators. They don't care about her because no, we don't want this to come out. The cover Mark said, but his friend, he wants to keep him on. A third, so he could do this to win more women, because Mark doesn't care about women. A third former Mavericks employee said Bollinger would rub up against her and was suggestive with his comments. It was known around the office that you can't be in Danny Bollinger's studio alone with him. A female community services volunteer for the Dallas Mavericks founders, a volunteer, mind you, said that early in Bollinger's tenure, he twice jumped into her vehicle as she was pulling out of a parking lot by the American Airlines Center where I work nearby, right here and propositioned her for sex. The former volunteer said Bollinger approached her car, was waving his arms to get her to stop. He opened her door, jumped into a passenger seat, and she said, and started to come on to her. She said she told Bollinger she was happily married with children like you and my wife, and that he needed to get out of her car. She said she argued with Bollinger for a few minutes until he left. The woman said she reported the incident to the head up there, the boss, Pittman was his name in Human Resources, who assured her he'd handle it. However, a few weeks later, Bollinger, again, the Dallas Morning News reports, approached her car as she was leaving the parking lot. This time, Bollinger walked in front of the car to get her to stop. She said she stopped because he was naive, and she was naive enough to think maybe he had come to apologize for the incident. Bollinger again started to come on to her. She said she again rejected his advances before telling him to get out of her car. I've never experienced someone so bold in my life. Well, when Mark Cuban's your friend, you shut up and do what he tells you to do and get underneath that desk and do what he says. That's who these people are. They're pigs. We're pigs.
He's the one with has problems with women.
Yes, here's the last part here before we... there's more, but I'll just stop at this one last quick thing. Around the same time as the first incident involving Bollinger, Mark Cuban's bestie, the volunteer was offered a full-time job by the Mavericks, but she said that shortly after she complained to Pittman about Bollinger's first sexual advance, guess what Mark Cuban's people do to you when you're being harassed like a piece of meat, and you share that with the HR person? What happens to you? Do you get the job they offered? And Mark Cuban, what do you think? Do you think the offer was rescinded then? What do you think? It says it right here. What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah, what happens to you if you work in Mark Cuban's Mavericks and his bestie wants to diddle you and you refuse because you're married with kids? What happens when you are offered a job and then you go to complain because you're like, hey, this guy's harassing me? What happens to you? Do you think she got the job? What happened?
No.
No, of course not. It's Mark Cuban. The job offer was rescinded because she wouldn't be a piece of meat sex doll and cheat on her husband and her kids and destroy her marriage and her sanctity of her marriage. Because Mark Cuban's friend said so. There you go. See that? Mark Cuban. Mm-hmm. Isn't it great? He tells you that women are stupid. Yeah, they're stupid and they're weak if you're around him. I don't know, Mark. You want weak women in your office doing stuff for your bestie. Right?
Yeah, he should know. He's the one with problems with weak women. Or
Mark Cuban with 8.9 followers criticizing Trump with 92 million followers.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Little man. Appreciate your call, Rachel.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, 800-288-WBAP. I got more if you guys are interested in hearing more of the rest of this Dallas Morning News expose with Mark trying to hide his besties on the team while they were trying to diddle all the female employees and being sick with the cheerleaders and everything. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. I'm going to give you some polling data that is really not good news for Kamala in Nevada, in North Carolina, and some other ones, and it has to do with the black vote. And it's not good news for Kamala. Isn't it funny? An old, white, rich, corrupt man can bring out the black vote way more than she can. What does that tell you? I don't know. Doesn't say anything good about her. All right, that's coming up next to the Chris Crock Show. Also, a desperate Kamala. We're going to really hit this. Talks about women. I'll talk about women again and using the victimization of women as a game, or the supposed victimization of women as a game. Desperate, I put in my own little notes here. Desperate. Kamala tries to make something of Trump wanting to protect women from being brutalized and raped by her illegals. That is next on the Chris Crock Show at 9:18 on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. 800-288-WBAP is our number. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. If you'd like to chime in on the Mark Cuban saying that you are not strong or intelligent if you're around Trump. In other words, you're weak and stupid.
Donald Trump, you never see him around strong, intelligent women, ever. It's just that simple.
I just tweeted out the story I've been sharing you throughout the night about how Mark Cuban's besties never got in trouble or got caught or got fired or called out or even involved in the report from the Sports Illustrated investigation of sexual harassment in his Mavericks office. And then he hired an independent counsel to go in and study it, and they let go some people, but they never let go his besties, who were some of the most horrifying and terrible sexual harassment, sick offenders, because those were his good friends. He covered for them. He kept it quiet, didn't he? Sure looks like it in this Dallas Morning News 7-page report that says, quote, Cuban. So the report cited significant errors of judgment on Mark Cuban's part and institutional failures. Cuban has agreed to contribute $10 million for the development of women in combating domestic violence. But the Mavericks didn't suffer any basketball-related penalties. Why would they? Come on now. The HR director was suspended shortly after the Sports Illustrated report. Another one who's a long-time friend of Mark Cuban, Procost, don't have the first name here, it's buried in the story somewhere else. Also a long-time friend of Cuban, suspended June 1st. Oh, look at all this stuff. But the report's now on my Twitter feed, and you can see how his record on women is. Hint, it's very bad. It's disgusting with his offices, how his Mavericks office, how it was run. Here's what I want to share with you. I've been trying to do it for a while. Pollsters. My buddy Eric Erickson, just a few highlights from his column today. Pollsters do not change their makeup of people polled each time. They keep a model. That model may overweight Harris voters or Trump voters or some other groups, but if that poll shows a continual shift in a particular direction, even if their overall number is wrong, we can presume they are measuring a shift. In this election, the shift has been to Trump. Over the past month, polls that had Harris up 5 might now have her up 1 point. Polls that had a tied race in the beginning of the month now have Trump ahead. It has been a pattern in both national and state level polling. Unfortunately for Democrats, the early voting numbers have some serious warning signs. In Georgia, the percentage for black voters in early voting is below 30%. To be competitive in Georgia, black voters need to generate at least 32%, preferably 34%. She's obviously 4 to 6 points below that. To be competitive, she is not in Georgia. In North Carolina, the black voter is also down from where it should be, while Republicans are outpacing Democrats in the early vote for the first time in decades. In Nevada, Republicans are outpacing Democrats for the first time in that state's history of early voting. In Arizona, the GOP is also crushing it. Pennsylvania, wild card, he says, but while the Democrats are dominating early voting, Republicans are keeping it closer than they normally do. Trump's team procuring a garbage truck quickly suggests the campaign management team is focused. Kamala Harris' failure to find time to speak with Joe Rogan and his more than 20 million listeners suggests her campaign is just not engaged. Her closing argument speech at the White House South Lawn as its backdrop got overshadowed by Biden's garbage comment. Harris could easily win this election. It is tied, but her campaign never seems quite able to capture key moments and capitalize on them. And then came Mark Cuban's comment saying that women are stupid and weak if they they're around Trump, all of them. So, and then lastly, in Nevada, Republicans have a 40,500 ballot lead in Nevada as of Wednesday evening, which is 5.2% more than Democrats in Nevada. That's stunning. Never happened before. North Carolina, the most red-leaning swing state in 2024. Harris thought they could win if black voters turned out for the first minority woman in office, but some Democrat strategists think Harris, to be competitive to flip North Carolina, there needs to be a turnout of 20% black voters. As of Wednesday, it's only 18%, so not even at 20. Okay, not good for her. We're going to do Kamala trying to make something of Trump wanting to protect women from being brutalized and raped by Kamala's illegals. For her illegals, but we're gonna do that at 45 after 9. We're gonna next talk about your paycheck will go down if Kamala gets elected, and also companies will not be able to pay you more because of the policies of Kamala if she gets elected. We're going to talk to my friend, my CPA, and my sponsor, Randy Martin from IRSprob.com, coming up at 33 after the hour for that and more information that is must hear so that you know what to be prepared for, what to expect if Kamala does get elected in 5 days. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227 on News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. This will probably be the last time we chat on the air before the election, and there's a lot of tax-related election news.
Man, I'm seeing it. It seems like it's a common thread through the messaging right now. You know, the economics of what these guys are looking at, and how they're gonna change the taxes. Yes,
the first thing I wanted to hit with you is Mark Cuban is certainly in the news, isn't he, a lot today? Whoa, well. Do we need to preview what he said already? Should we play that real fast?
Okay. I've been listening.
Okay. Well, the Harris wealth tax versus Mark Cuban. The wealthy Harris Harris supporters calls the proposal an economy killer. She says she still supports it. Well, talk to me about that.
Yeah, you know, I think the reason why Cuban knows that will never get passed. She's pandering to a base, and it's kind of scary because with some of these bases, if they get up enough support and enough momentum, something like this probably could get passed to where you and I are paying, capital gains for unrealized capital gains for the increase in the value of our home, even though we haven't gotten any money for it, or, because of the stock increase or something that we own increases in value. And so we have to pay a wealth tax on it.
Randy, can I just really make sure this is insane and people need to understand? I want to make sure people like you or me or listeners right now, if their house goes up today from, let's say, a year from now by, let's just make up a number of $30,000 or $40,000 or let's say $50,000, okay? Mm-hmm. Even though we don't sell the house, even though we don't make a profit from it, it's our house, and we're still living in it. Right. We will be taxed on the increase in $50,000 value. Literally, we'll have to pay for that even though we haven't cashed it out. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's what the increase, the unrealized capital gain tax would do. Something that you own increased in value. Therefore, your wealth increased in value, wealth tax. Your wealth has increased, and so you're going to get taxed on that.
And also my 401k, is that correct? My IRA?
I don't know how it would work on the 401k. I mean, generally the 401k is not taxed until money starts getting pulled out of it, but a wealth tax would, if it's actually a true wealth tax to where they're taxing you on all the increase in your net worth year over year, that would include the 401k.
This woman's going to destroy us.
The scary part of this is I don't think it stands a chance, but you could have told the founding fathers about the income tax, and they would have said, "Oh, well, that would never happen here." We have to change the Constitution, which they actually did.
She's talking about killing the filibuster so that the Senate, instead of having to have 60 people to move past filibuster, are going to need 51. And she's talking about destroying the Supreme Court by making it the House of Lords and taking it from 9 justices to maybe 18 or 21 or something, which is
however many are needed.
Which is vile because you're an equal branch. You can't tell them what to do.
Right.
Go ahead, sir.
No, so the wealth tax is very scary on that, and the administration of it. One of the things that just irks me every day about the income tax is all the money that our country wastes on trying. It's just huge bureaucracy that's built up on just trying to keep tabs on it. There's laws that are written as to what is income and what is not what is an expense, what is not an expense. What's a deduction, what's not, and you have this. The IRS is not at 100,000 people right now, but it's been up over 100,000 in employees before, just managing that. It's just a huge bureaucracy. So this would be something to that scale of a large bureaucratic push. Now here again, I think Cuban is supporting. I mean, I have my own reasons why I believe he's supporting Harris, but I think he understands that wealth tax doesn't stand a chance. But it's still a dangerous concept.
Randy, my son was, before he cast his ballot, he wanted to ask me some questions after he did research on every single candidate, which I'm proud of him for doing that on his own. And I try to explain, you talk about inflation and who will be worse for fighting and ending it. And I said that Trump is, and I mentioned one of the reasons why. It's not just energy, which affects everything we buy and consume, right. Including transportation in every way you thinkable, but it also includes regulations and red tape. Would you say that's in your realm? And that's kind of what you're just hitting on. Would you say that that's a big boom on destroying our economy and inflation as well? The regulations that this woman would put, this candidate would put on our companies.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, the Democratic Party generally has been more pro big government, pro regulations, pro government interference into business, and that would be a big unseen tax that the American people would have to face on that. It's not dollars that they're having to pay to the government, but it's dollars that are going out of your pocket nevertheless. Right. It's just like I'd say the energy tax that we have because we're buying fuel that's more expensive than it should be because of restrictions on drilling. Same with the natural gas, that we buy. It's how much cheaper would it be if there wasn't so much government interference and government restrictions on it? We could have it for a cheaper price.
And she and Joe have stopped all sending any LNG, liquid natural gas. I think they've also stopped either production or they refuse to send it overseas or something, which is affecting the supply and the cost of liquid natural gas or just natural gas in general. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and you can see it through the tax policies, kind of what both sides are proposing. Trump's policies are generally more, hey, we'll give a tax cut for that, or cut the rates down so that everybody's paying a little bit less. And do something that I think should have been done a long time ago, which is stop the tax on Social Security. For years it was never taxed until the Clinton administration. They started taxing Social Security. But Kamala's, hers are more kind of, hey, they're more kind of credits and gifts here. It's more trying to push certain agenda items than Trump's would be.
Randy. The Harris plan to lower your wages. From the Wall Street Journal, Vice President wants to raise the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28, which will ultimately be paid by workers. Can you explain how we'll be paying for the corporate tax rate going up?
I saw that, and I have to disagree a little bit with that one. I mean, it will be paid by workers, but it'll also be paid by the consumer, and so therefore, again, the large corporations, they'll squeeze anybody that they can on these things, but they'll if they can squeeze it out of the workers, they will. But they'll also squeeze more out of the consumers. They're not going to lower profit margins just because there's another person in office. They will do everything that they can, and so I see that as very inflationary.
There was, let me see, we're not going to be able to hit everything, but I want to ask you one more. What's at stake with Kamala Harris' economic plan? Wall Street Journal contributors looked at this and saw the threats, opportunities of her positions in the economy. Can you just give me the quick bullet points on some of them, the ones that are important to you to mention?
Yeah, so there's she wanted to push the universal pre-kindergarten, more paid family leave. I think there was a study that said that the lifetime cost of this increased regulatory framework and all the regulations that will go in is probably about $47,000 per household, which is, here again, that's that kind of like a non-monetary tax that we're seeing, or non-direct tax that we're seeing. There are some items in there. She wanted to do a $25,000 down payment assistance. That really doesn't help bring the price of housing down. And here again, this is kind of her MO is to go in and try to kind of, I guess, an attempt to be pragmatic with some problems. If something's costing more, well, let's throw more money at it. But that doesn't help inflation. That actually
makes it worse. Yeah,
it drives the prices up. I don't think many of these are very well thought through. As Trump might say, they're just not smart.
Yeah, well, let me hit one thing real fast on the way out here. Survey: small business uncertainty reaches an all-time high. NFIB, National Federation of Independent Business study, finds owners worried about inflation financing costs. What is the effect that the Biden-Harris administration has caused on your bread and butter, which is medium and small businesses in DFW and in the region?
You've really seen them squeezed. I mean, really, the last 2 years have been the pinnacle of it. I have to say, it seems like a lot more people are hopeful right now. So that's encouraging. But the last 2 years have been really bad for the small business people. And so much of the small business is centered around, real estate and construction. That's there's a lot of small business in those two industries, and they've just been really hit hard because of the higher interest rates, which have been increased because of higher inflation.
Yeah. Randy, I want to thank you, first of all, on this final pre-election edition. And last but not least, if folks do want to get in touch with you, why would they do that, and how can they do that?
Yeah, if somebody is just in a situation where they owe the IRS more than they're going to be able to pay, or if they're just continuously year after year having to pay in large amounts to the IRS because of their business, or if they get an audit letter from the IRS, they want to give us a call as soon as possible. Our telephone number is 214-214-3000. That's 214-214-3000. You can always look us up online at irsprob.com. That's IRSP rob.com.
Love the P, my man. Appreciate you very much, Randy Martin. You have a great night. And go vote. Did you vote yet?
Yep, already took care of it.
Me too. All of us have in the Kroc household. Thank you, brother. Talk to you soon, okay?
Take care, brother.
There he goes. Okay, coming up next, desperate is what I say, desperate. Kamala tries to make something of Trump wanting to protect women from being brutalized and raped by her illegals. Will it work? And I got the J.D. Vance interview with Joe Rogan. I got some highlights. We're going to hit that also coming up. And Kamala says it's okay to lie to your husband and it's okay to lie to your parents about who you vote for. And it's okay for men to lie to their wives and to lie to their bros. They got Julia Roberts and George Clooney saying that in the commercials, in the ads. Is that a good message? Lie to your wife, lie to your husband, lie to your parents? It is for her. I don't think it is for me. But all that's coming up next on the Chris Kroc Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3, 800-288 WBAP, 800-288-9227. We hit the Kamala trying to make something of Trump wanting to protect women from being brutalized and raped by her illegals in 2 minutes at 48 after the hour on WBAP. News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. This is awesome. Look at fake news CNN. It says Vance. I just paused the live coverage or whatever. Vance suggests conservative men have more testosterone. Well, if you watch the Joe Rogan Experience today, which we're going to play you highlights of it, J.D. Vance was on with Joe Rogan. Let's see how many. J.D. Vance was on with Joe Rogan for 3 hours and 17 minutes. Could you imagine Tim Walz or Kamala being on an interview for 3 hours? And I got Trump's queued up. By the way, Trump's has been viewed just on YouTube. It's on Twitter and it's on Spotify as well. It's now over 70 million views total. 70 million people have watched Donald Trump on Joe Rogan for 3 hours, laughing, joking, having fun, hanging out. And he is now, you're going to hear J.D. Vance talking to Joe Rogan and mocking. They're basically both laughing. And Joe tried his hardest to get her on. But they're laughing about her. Because she had her chance, he tried, and he's not being a jerk about it, but J.D. Vance is, having fun about it and showing how she's, afraid or word salads. And there Joe was laughing what he was saying. So, I mean, this woman is ruining her own campaign because she's too afraid. And Joe has never interviewed anybody in the entire history of his show anywhere except at his Austin studios. And she wanted the exception. Donald J. Trump didn't want an exception. J.D. Vance didn't want an exception. They flew to Austin. They worked for him. They worked for his schedule. They did not work for him. They worked for his demands. They met his demands. His demands are simple. Come here, give me an hour and in person, and no staff in my room when I'm interviewing you. She said, oh, you come to me and you come wherever I pick. He's like, no, I'm not doing that. I've never done that for anybody. No. Come here, please. And he tried. She was in Austin when she called. They called. Not her, her people called. He's like, come on over. He said in the interview tonight, I would go there at 10 o'clock that night. I said, I'll be there at 10, whatever time you want, 10 p.m., 11, I'll come back, no problem. So she didn't do it because she's afraid. I'm going to be playing for you also. I apologize, but I get excited about these different things. The Joe Rogan J.D. Vance interview has been seen on YouTube alone 4.3 million. No, 4.8 million. So almost 5 million in the first 9 hours. In 9 hours, 4.8 million people. See that? Trump is now up to 42.3 million just on YouTube. Though again, Spotify is probably 20 million or something. I don't know. I tried to look, but I can't tell. I don't have Spotify. My daughter used to. But anyways, that's what it is. But last night on Fox News, they said over 70 million for Trump. And that's what the Wall Street Journal said I read it last Saturday, and I was so deep into it. It was captivating me for some reason. A lot of this stuff doesn't always captivate me, and so it captivated me. And it was saying that the going on Joe Rogan with Trump, going on Joe Rogan was literally going to eclipse every single interview Kamala and Trump did combined, and it did. Like the Brett Baer Kamala interview was 8.9 million or 8 point something million, or maybe 9 million people saw it total with everything. And Trump was 70 million, more than 70 million. Isn't that insane? So that's what they're making. You have no idea how many people watch this. I didn't. And I mean, I knew it was big, but he's the most listened to podcast in the world. Kind of hard to think you're Satan when people listen to you for 3 hours with a guy that is a cultural phenomenon, whether you know him or like him or whatever, doesn't matter. And then J.D. Vance shows up, and Waltz ain't going to go on any of that, Yeah. So anyway, this is some good stuff. Because these people, meaning Kamala and Waltz, they literally don't want to be whoever they really are. They don't want to just shoot the you-know-what and not be uncomfortable about it. They just can't do that, apparently. So there it is. All right, next we're going to get into twofold. We're going to get into Trump, and we're going to hit it right away. Trump saying that he wants to protect women, and some people, his staff says that don't say this, but I want to protect women whether they want me to or not from these illegals and what they're doing to women in our country. And then Kamala seizes on that and tries to attack him. And it's kind of like, what are you saying, Kamala? Are you saying these women should suffer without a protector? Should they suffer in silence as they're being raped and brutalized by your illegals? Is that what you're saying? It's really bizarre. But you're going to hear Trump in his original context saying it in a rally the other day or last night, and then you're going to hear Kamala trying to make this something. And I think it's just desperation, trying to make something stick while you're failing and flailing. She really is. But that's next on the Chris Crock Show with audio. And I want your comments, your thoughts on that, and then we'll get to Rogan. 800-288-WBAP is our number line. It's wide open if you want to chime in. 800-288-9227. Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3.